Is he from your church too? Only. Let's call the meeting to order. Tammy and Ben will both be absent this evening. The invocation this evening is very interesting. I think we have two individuals signed up to give the invocation. Dr. Is it Tolls? T-O-L-S? That's you? And Bruce Johnson. Have you decided on which one is going to, or will let both of you?
Peace and harmony, right?
By the way, Dr. Tolls, you are scheduled for August the 7th also.
I'll be here then as well, sir.
Okay. Are you Robert Johnson? I'm sorry.
Yes.
If you would.
I will, brother.
And the flag salute, Jonathan, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? Thank you.
Hey, I know they ask us pastors to come, and thanks for the privilege of coming and praying for you tonight. But I would ask all of us in this room, let's just pause for a moment and let's say a prayer for this evening tonight and this meeting and this agenda, that God would help us tonight, would you? Father, I thank you for the freedom that we have to come together in this setting like this to conduct business of our city. Lord, thank you for each individual in leadership tonight. I pray for our mayor. I pray for our city council. Lord, I pray for their for wisdom and guidance as they make decisions to better our community. And may everything that takes place in this room tonight bring glory and honor to you. And we pray these things in the strong name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of June the 5th, 2018.
To approve?
Second. Motion by George, second by Ron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Oh.
Got a pair.
Hi, good evening. I'm Charlotte Ringwald. I'm the adoption coordinator at Enid Animal Control. And this month, June, is Adopt a Cat Month. So it is just the right time because we are full of little kittens and cats of all ages. So tonight I have Veronica Cat and Angelic Cat. And they are both in Pen 1. They're about 7-month-old females. And one's very adventurous and one is very cuddly. They all have their little personalities. And so we've got tons and tons of cats, and we've got a lot of dogs available too. So if you're looking for a new best friend, stop by the shelter and give us a holler. You say hello, meow meow. And thank you guys.
Are you the one in charge of giving them names when they come into the shelter?
Yes. I try to keep it with themes and keep it interesting.
That's a good deal.
You can only have so many like Fidos and Spots and Spikes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.2, recognition of Colonel Darrell F. Judy. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have two presentations to present to you tonight, to our television audience. Colonel Judy. We have a special presentation for the Colonel this evening, and you guys don't have to be so far apart, but I know that the Mayor wanted to offer some comments first before we read a special proclamation made just for you.
Colonel Judy? you're one of a long line of wing commanders, good wing commanders, and you represent of them. We've appreciated having you, and we look forward to having you as a citizen of the city of Enid. Keep up the good work and enjoy what you have, about 2 weeks left.
I got a month, sir.
Got a month.
Yeah.
Well, great, but this probably is your last city council
This will be
meeting.
my last city council, yes, sir.
But you've done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate,
It's been an
we
honor.
appreciate you.
Colonel, if you will, the City Manager Gerald Gilbert and the mayor has authorized this proclamation, and I'll read it, and then feel free to take the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation reads as such this evening. Whereas Colonel Darrell F. Judge Judy is commander of the 71st Flying Training Wing, Vance Air Force Base, Enid, Oklahoma. He leads a wing of more than 2,700 personnel, conducting joint specialized undergraduate pilot training for more than 400 U.S. Air Force and allied student pilots each year. And whereas Colonel Judy earned his commission in 1992 as a distinguished graduate of the ROTC program at Colorado State University. He is also a graduate of the Naval War College and the Air Command and Staff College. And whereas prior to his current assignment, Colonel Judy had numerous wing and number Air Force level staff jobs. From 2011, he served as the Chief Personnel Recovery Office for the U.S. European Command at Patchberg, Stuttgart, Germany. In this assignment, he is responsible for formulating personnel recovery plans, directives, and operations for over 90,000 military and civilian personnel in 51 countries with United States European Command area of responsibility. He is a command pilot of over 3,100 hours in airlift and trainer aircraft, and whereas Colonel Judy will relinquish command of the 71st Flying Training Wing in a ceremony on Monday, July 16, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved that Bill Shuey, the mayor of the city of Enid, hereby proclaims Tuesday, and we still got a little bit of time left, June 19th, to be the Colonel Darrell Judge Judy Day. Congratulations, Colonel. We appreciate you.
Mayor and council, thank you. I don't know if I really warrant a day, but I do appreciate it very much so. You know, it's been a tremendous honor, this assignment. For me personally, it's kind of where I began my flying. It's where I'm going to end my flying in the Air Force. But really, what's made this really special for me is the opportunity to represent the Airmen of Vance Air Force Base to the City Council, to you, Mayor, to the City of Enid. It has frankly been a fantastic and very enjoyable experience. Everywhere I go in this great city and the surrounding communities, we're always warmly welcome. And it's one of the, quite frankly, if not the best, I would say one of the best communities I've been a part of in my military career because of the support that we receive, the genuine outpouring for our airmen and what we do, not only in the Air Force but the Armed Services. And it's been a true blessing to be here to do this. And it's something I will look back on for the rest of my life as a great opportunity. And my family and I look forward to settling down in Enid for a while. We've got a couple kids we got to get through school, and we're excited about that. We can't think of a better place to raise our children. And so, Mayor, thank you very much, City Councilman, as well with this. And I'll try to do something special on the 19th.
Well deserved.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
I have one other thing.
Oh.
We have, just a second, I have
Is
one
this a
other
flying
thing.
test?
We have 100 mayors and their spouses going to be here for 4 days. The #1 request on their list was a tour of Vance Air Force Base. Colonel Judy made it happen. I'm not going to tell you the day they're going to be out there, but be careful on Friday. Colonel Judy made it happen, and they will be happy. I hope you're flying hundreds of missions
We'll try to do you proud, sir.
Friday afternoon.
Colonel Judy, we have one more gift. The mayor and city manager asked me to present this to you. I understand that you really can't accept gifts, kind of, sort of. So therefore, this is for your lovely wife.
Okay.
And it's a plane. The city of Enid wanted to provide her a plane, but actually it is looks like a T-38. And if you pull the cockpit apart, kind of looks like a flash drive.
That's very neat.
So
Thank
you
you
will
very much.
always remember City of Enid.
I will.
Because we're on the wings there.
You got it right there, right on the wings. You got it set
Okay.
up.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
That one is not air conditioned.
Not air conditioned. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Earlier, well, I guess it was last week, City Manager Gerald Gilbert asked me to make a presentation or special recognition for Mayor Bill Shuey. Johnny, you want to come up this way, please? Mrs. Mayor, come on, you said you would. You promised me. You said you would. Just take your time. No. Thank you for being here. And I want to read this. This was presented to the mayor last Tuesday? Just a week ago. It says Greater Enid Chamber of Commerce, Bill Shuey, Citizen of the Year 2018. So the television camera can get a good shot of that. But Mr. Gilbert wanted to make sure that we took time this evening to recognize you and your work as mayor, but also recognize you that it's pretty special to be Citizen of the Year. So we wanted to dedicate a few minutes to you and say thank you and congratulations, and we want to make sure the television audience as well got to see your award, and we just say thanks.
Thank you. It was a surprise.
All right. Mr. Gilbert and Commission, that is it for the presentations this evening. Thank you.
Item 5.4, appointments of city commissioners to the Walk of Fame Committee and the Enid Regional Development Alliance. You going to handle that, Gerald?
Yes, on the Enid Regional Development Alliance, the mayor is recommending Commissioner Jonathan Waddell to replace Commissioner Ben Ezell. And on the Walk of Fame Committee for that induction ceremony that will happen in September, the mayor is nominating Commissioner Derwin Norwood and Commissioner George Pankinen to form that committee to determine who those nominees are and who the selectees are.
Can we vote on both at the same time?
Yes, I think we can.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. The pay is real good, Derwin. Item 6, administration. Item 6.1, hold a public hearing to consider a request to close a portion of a utility easement located in Lot 14, Block 13, plat of Blocks 13 and 14 Wilderness Cove, part of the northwest quarter, Section 10, Township 22 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian. Robert.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is a request received from a residence to close a portion of a utility easement on their property which backs onto Chestnut. What we show up here is, of course, want to locate the site which is on Chestnut between just east of Garland Road, show Garland on the map up here, and just south of Chestnut. And then our next slide is a little closer view of that same area. Again, you see Chestnut on the north. This slide does have, we have colored index the easements that exist in that area. There is a drainage and utility easement on the north side of the subdivision. And the subdivision we're talking about actually includes the 2 lots shown on the map in the center of the front on Chestnut. And there is a 16-foot utility easement that was platted part of the subdivision in addition to the easement along Chestnut. And the area in red is where the proposed closing of the easement. It'll be 6 foot of that 16-foot utility easement. You can see existing house there. And the request, this is a copy of the application and the owner's request. Basically requesting to close that easement, provide for, they feel needed improvements to their house and their structure, and are looking to do an addition, and that would be the direction of the addition as covered by his comments here. just go back again. The plat does have a 16-foot easement across these two lots. However, that easement does not extend to the east or to the west. Those subdivisions do not have that additional easement way. Therefore, it would be anticipated to be difficult to make full use of that easement. And that's, I think, part of the reason why the request for closing 6 feet of it. The Planning Commission did hear the request last night and did recommend approval. This is a hearing, so I'm glad to open it up for anyone who may want to speak to the issue.
Questions, comments? Thank you, Robert. Item 6.2, consider an ordinance closing to the public a portion of a utility easement located in Lot 14, Block 13, replat of Blocks 13 and 14 in Wilderness Cove, providing for repealer, savings clause, and severability.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Jonathan. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Is that me that didn't vote? Yep. There you go. Item carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 6.3, consider a resolution amending the 2017-2018 Health Fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $400,000 to increase the 2017-2018 appropriated amounts for the Health Department.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, during the year, actually during the budget process this year, I let you know we were experiencing a high claims year. We need to appropriate additional $400,000 from the fund balance to be able to cover the claims and pay the claims for June. For the health fund this year, their fund balance is sufficient to be able to cover this appropriation. Any questions?
My only question is that we just approved the budget a few weeks ago, and we didn't know then that we were going to need this amount of money to...
We did. That was for next year's budget when we did the budget meetings, and I let you know at that time. This is for the current year. All of the resolutions tonight are for the current year that we're in that ends on June 30.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Approve.
Motion by George,
Second.
second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6.4, consider a resolution authorizing a general fund transfer in the amount of $350,000 to the fire department. Aaron?
Yes, this is another item that I believe that we spoke about during the budget process. In next year's budget, there is funding to purchase a new pumper truck for the fire department. There are excess funds in this current year that are available to transfer over to help fund the purchase of that equipment next year.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan, second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6.5, consider a resolution amending the 2017-2018 general fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $245,000 to increase the 2017-2018 appropriated amounts for the general fund sales tax transfers department.
Yes, and this item is we had sales tax revenues that exceeded our budget for the year. We're only authorized to transfer out the amount budgeted to the municipal authority for the 1% capital tax, as well as the tax for the school bond and Call Lake. We need the transfer appropriation so that we can move the funds over that we have collected during the year that were in excess of the budget.
That's a good deal.
Yes, it's great for those.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron. Second. Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6.6, consider the phasing options for the Call Lake program and take any necessary action.
Yeah, let me preface this one by starting out and saying that we are coming to the conclusion of Phase 2. Phase 2 was to do significant engineering to get us to 30% and to look at the financing on the plan. They talked to us about the total cost of the plan. We phased in a plan that we believe is affordable, based on $315 million financed and a minimum level of other annual capital improvement expenditures. The financial advisor talked about that last time. Based on the current situation and projections into the future, that we feel comfortable at that level. Chris is going to recap the engineering, because to close out phase 2, if you feel like you have enough information and can make the decision, we would like to settle on an option. And I think that's what Chris is going to take us through now.
Thank you, Gerald. Yes, that's kind of what we need to do. We need to settle on an option. If this is the time we want to do that, that'll allow Garver to continue with closing out the Phase 2 activities and filing their engineering report with the Department of Environmental Quality. The things we'll look at real quickly are what we've done, Phase 3 and 4, and kind of give us an idea on where the next step is. Michael?
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Mayor and Commission members. Some of these slides will be familiar to you as we have revisited these the past couple of months, just reminding you what the Phase 2 program goals were, and that was to prepare a 30% design for the full build-out of the program for the year 2072 under a high-demand water supply scenario, update the cost opinion associated with that preliminary design, both from a capital expense standpoint and operations and maintenance cost standpoint. And then finally, develop an executable plan. I think the term affordable was just used by the city manager earlier tonight. And so that is where we're at tonight, is we have developed 6 options that are deemed executable. Those were based off of demands associated with the green line that you see on the graph on the screen for those right there. The planning numbers, the full build-out numbers, were developed based on the top line, the kind of a worst-case scenario, if you will, as part of projecting water demand. But the green line is more representative of the actual demands. And that green line has been routinely updated throughout Phase 2, most recently last month, I believe, by city staff. You may recall we had 6 options, the phasing options, executable phasing plans, if you will. After several discussions during study session and with city staff, we have narrowed those down to 2 feasible alternatives moving forward. Option 4, which encompasses a 30-inch pipeline, 1 booster pump station, 10.5 million gallon per day water treatment plant at a program cost estimate of $305 million. The initial capacity, again, of this phased option is 10.5 million gallons per day, with the next capital expense investment planned for the year 2063. And we kind of term that a growth investment year, because the demands increased at a point where the year 2063 required you to invest in additional infrastructure. The program capacity would be at its limit at that point. Similar for option 6, with some unique differences. This involves a 36-inch pipeline, no booster pump station, with the same capacity in the water treatment plant. The program cost here is $315 million estimate, with an initial program capacity at 9.2 million gallons per day. You may ask, why is it lower with a bigger pipeline? Well, it doesn't include the booster pump station. That 9.2 is a very conservative number. It's probably more likely that we could get a few more 100,000 gallons per day out of that project as well. But from a conservative standpoint, 9.2 is a really good planning number. The growth investment year on that option is 2048, and that would be investment in that pump station, because at that point, if your demand increases remain as projected, you would need additional flows. This table looks very similar. However, it kind of identifies some of the trade-offs or priorities and sacrifices. So options 4 and 6, the $305 million estimate, the $315 million estimate, you'll see that the priority in option 4 is water quality and capacity, whereas the priority in option 6 is the same, water quality and capacity. But if you look at some of the trade-offs or the sacrifices, you'll see that pipeline capacity is sacrificed in option 4 because we're building over 60 miles of new pipeline at a 30-inch as opposed to a 36-inch. And that's not something you do every day and come back and do again very often. So you are sacrificing some not only initial but long-term capacity within that pipeline asset. So if you decided that option 6 tonight was the project that you wanted to move forward with, this is what that growth investment timeline might look like. Now recall that a lot of the planning was done on the high demand growth line, which is the red line at the top of the graph, moving from left to right. However, the budgeting and phasing is based on actual demand, which is reflected in the green line, and then that actual demand projected forward at the same growth rate. So you can see that the 9.2 million gallons per day capacity limit that I mentioned earlier would be reached in or about the year 2048, which would require that first growth investment, and that would be to build the intermediate booster pump station. The next growth investment, assuming demand projections stayed the same, growth rate stayed the same, would be in the year 2058, and that would be when the water treatment plant reached its 10.5 million gallon per day capacity and would require additional treatment expansion. The next investment would be approximately the year 2087. I know that's a long time out there, and it's tough to hold these projections that long, but that's when the water treatment plant would reach 14 million gallons per day, as well as an upgrade at the intake pump station, and additional intermediate booster pump station capacity would be required. And then finally, to get back up on that red line, if we were to ever get there at the current projected growth rates, it would take to the year 2136 to reach the full build-out capacity of the program. So lots of room for planning there. Schedule for phase 3 and 4 moving forward, as Chris mentioned and Gerald mentioned, we're wrapping up phase 2. Phase 3 is, again, a lot of engineering, a lot of program execution, Army storage contract. Those efforts are slated to begin on the original program schedule at the beginning of the third quarter of this year. Most of the phase 3 efforts would culminate with final design in the early part of 2020. Then phase 4, which is typically referred to as the construction phase. You can see there are multiple projects that are identified there with the blue bars, moving from left to right, starting with the intake construction in the fourth quarter of 2019, and moving on into the east pressure plane distribution main construction at the very bottom of the slide in the third quarter of 2020. Chris?
And so that basically wraps up what we've done on the technical side for the engineering. You know, we're at that spot whether if you think you have enough information, we can select an option, and then if we're ready to do that, then we can talk about initiating some financing activities. Any questions?
Questions?
Chris, do you have a recommendation?
I'm partial to option 6, sir. It gives me the most growth for the future. And yes, it busted my original budget, but the difference in timeline on maximum capacity between 305 and 315 seems to me like that's where I would go.
Other questions?
I have one. As far as, will this go out for bids to different companies, or is it?
There will be lots of bidding going on. I'm expecting to use somewhere between 6 and 8 engineering firms to finish the design aspects of this. You know, one of the things that's important to me is to protect that schedule, because schedule is cost. And then we'll break those segments down into probably twice as many construction contracts. I don't want to give a 70-mile-an-hour or award a 70-mile pipeline to one construction firm. I don't like that risk. So we'll split that up. And the smaller pieces I can break it up into without burdening myself in administrative work, the easier it is for some of our local firms to bid and bond that work.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the commission, tonight, the action items that are on the agenda, this one in particular, is if you are comfortable selecting an option now, you can do that now, or we can come back with more information for you. We would like to select the option to close out Phase 2 and know where we're going in Phase 3. Later, we have an agenda item on about financing activity, which is simply an application. So we'll talk about that, I guess, when we get there. So whatever you did tonight is really just doing those things. It's not, you will have more decisions coming to you with Phase 3 and the initiation of Phase 3. And I just want you to know that as you ponder and.
Yes, Mayor, since we have spent quite a bit of time, going through all of this, we've had numerous meetings about it, and I know when we started this project, we were expecting a larger pipeline than either one of these options provides, and I think that the minimum size of the pipeline that we should consider would be the 36-inch pipeline, which would be option 6, and I would be willing to make a motion that we approve that option.
Motion by Ron,
I'll second that motion.
second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Michael. Item 7, consent items.
Mayor, I would like to approve the consent items with the exception of number 4.
Item 7.
I'll make a motion to approve the others.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Now, item 7.4, award the contract for remote school beacon monitoring system to Gage Sales Company, Inc., Wichita, Kansas, in the amount of $116,308, and authorize the mayor to execute all contract documents.
My question, Mayor, is what are we talking about here? I'm not really familiar with a remote school beacon monitoring system.
I can answer that question. Currently, all of our school zones and our school zone lightage is, the timing on it is set at each location. What this project does is allow us to connect those or network those and set them all from a location, and make them uniform if we want to. Currently, right now, each one gets programmed differently is the way I understand it. Everett wasn't able to be here tonight. Lou, do you have
Yes,
some
sir.
information?
You're exactly right. It's basically taking all of the school zones, making them be able to be controlled from the service center, the tech services, so that they can operate them
Okay.
on a daily basis.
That was going to be my next question as to where would this control be?
Probably be in tech services.
So in other words, instead of going to the site of lights, which is, I think, how they have to do it now, this would give us technology to be able to synchronize them or have different times for them. I know you've talked to me several times about several lights that we have flashing at noon and nobody crosses the street.
Yeah, that would be my next item, would be that I think we need to look at some of our school zones that in the past have been required, that I'm not sure that we need lights in those same locations anymore. I think that's something we should take a look at.
Is this software?
It's software and hardware, the way I understand it.
Further discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve this item.
Motion by Ron.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8, we will recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 9, All of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting are in attendance except for Tammy and Ben. Item 10, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 10.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2017-2018 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $150,000. Aaron?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, this is another item where the amount that we had budgeted, the revenues that we've collected for the year or anticipate collecting by the end of the year exceed the budgeted revenue. We need the authorization to transfer those funds out of EMA where those bills are collected over to the Stormwater Fund where those excess funds will sit until they're used for a future stormwater project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jonathan, second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10.2, authorize payments to Cimarron Terrace Water Association for underproduction of Unit 4 and Unit 6 in the Ames Water Field 2013 through 2017.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron, second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10.3, consider and take action with respect to a resolution agreeing to file applications with the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, the OWRB, for financial assistance through Oklahoma Water Resources Board Financial Assistance Program and through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program, with the loan proceeds being for the purpose of financing certain water system improvements and containing other provisions related thereto.
I think this is going to be Alan and John. And I'll just preface it again with this is an important item. This authorizes an application to go to OWRB, and we needed to complete the application. I believe there's a lead, there's a lead time or a lag time, 2 to 3 months. John will talk about, which is why it's important to do it today. And we will clearly have more meetings and more action items in the future, because I believe it will come back at some point with whatever loan package is available based upon our application. So John, why don't you explain this to us?
Certainly. I'm actually going to steal from Garber one of their PowerPoints. I think instead of me drowning you with more slides, we've spent quite a few weeks, months discussing this issue. But I think for the public, the viewing audience, I'll address that we have various projects that involve engineering, acquisition of land, acquisition of storage rights. We have construction projects, engineering, program management. We have a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And what we had to look at, let me face this direction, is we had to determine, first of all, what our funding options were, what our funding availability was with the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, what programs were available nationally, but we're at the precipice to move forward to go to the next phase. So as we address how do we fund phase 3, how do we fund land acquisition, final design, program execution phase 4, and acquisition of storage rights, this is the next level of projects that we had to determine a funding source for. And as we have talked in the last months, and we have recently learned that there is a provision that has been set aside for the City of Enid or the Enid Municipal Authority of an allocation of funding from the Drinking Water Statewide Revolving Fund Program, federally subsidized program of $220 million for the City of Enid over the next almost 4 years. Dollars would be available, cash flow of dollars would be available for the City of Enid. The $220 million, I think Alan, actually, bond counsel did the math. This is 3.5 times larger than any allocation of SRF funding done in the history of this program in the state for the city of Enid. So a very significant commitment to the city for a low-interest program. And so what we looked at is we had different options, had options 4 and 6, but we had to determine how much could we fund from this particular, or how much could we address as far as the projects, the funding. And we determined that with $220 million, if the governing body was to move forward with option 6, then we have another $95 million that we'd have to address. But that's over the next 4 years. We had to address what is necessary over the next year to 2 years. We had to look at where what the market condition is now as far as interest rates for these programs. The Drinking Water Statewide Revolving Fund Program, or I'll refer to as DWSRF program, is a subsidized program. Their interest rate today for 30 years, fixed, today, if you were to close today, would be 3%. That's fixed for 30 years. That's a very low interest rate, but that includes a federal subsidy. Other options are, for the balance of $95 million, are to look at other funding programs through the Water Resources Board, which it includes what's called a FAP bond loan program, where the Oklahoma Water Resources Board goes out and issues bonds with a AAA rating, and they take those proceeds of those bonds, they loan them to you at a market interest rate that's reflective of a AAA rating. So you effectively get that rate that a AAA would generate at that point in time when those bonds are sold. Today, that's around a 3.85% for 30 years. We're looking at $315 million. We're trying to a certain degree, we're trying to leverage as many dollars as possible early on at as low interest rate as possible to make this the most affordable for the city of Enid. And so what we have looked at is, at this point in time, is to look at from the $220 million that the Water Board allocated for the city of Enid, they only allocated $20 million the first year, starting July 1. They will allocate the remaining $200 million after that date. So that would be today, that would be assuming we were to look at this transaction and closing this transaction in September for the bond loan program, and maybe August for the drinking water program, it would be the August of 2019, you would then be eligible to take down the remaining $200 million. So what we have essentially is about $64.4 million that's associated with each one of those line items. Although, as you can see, not every item do you need funding immediately, but we made the determination as your financial advisor that the sooner you lock in the funding for the next 4 steps of this process, the better chance you have at locking at today's lower interest rates. And so what we were recommending is that you submit an application to the Water Resources Board to fund $44.4 million from their FAP or bond loan program, and the $20 million that they had allocated for the first year from their SRF program. And that would address lock in your funding, lock in your rate for all of the projects for the next 2 years. And then look at this time next year, maybe a little later into the fall, see what we've learned with the engineering going from 30 to 100%, and determine at that time what funding you would address for the construction projects themselves as we get closer to determining what those dollar estimates will be. And you'll have the option at that point in time to lock in additional SRF dollars through this drinking water SRF program, and also lock in the balance through either the bond program of the Water Resources Board, or to look at other options, federal options that may be an even better interest rate But at this point in time, since we're at this precipice, we believe that the $2 amounts of $20 million for drinking water loan program from the program and 44.4 from the FAP bond loan program we recommend that as your next step. And be glad to answer any questions. We've spent a lot of months on this. Be glad to answer any more of the general questions to the public, since we threw out a lot of information, or at least I threw out a lot of financial information over the last 15 minutes. Be glad to answer any questions.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution in accordance with this particular item.
A motion by Ron,
I'll second it.
second by Jonathan. Further discussion, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Item 10.4, approval of claims in the amount of $888,531.82.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 11, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. All of the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting are in attendance except for Tammy and Ben. They're absent. Item 13, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 13.1, approval of claims in the amount of $12,508.86.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 14, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 15, all of the trustees at the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting are in attendance except for Tammy and Ben, and they are absent. Item 16, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 16.1, approval of claims in the amount of $3,588.50.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 17, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid City Commission. Item 18, public comments. We have two people signed up. Diane, you're first. Need your name and address, please.
Diane Levesque, 1324 West Oak Avenue, and today's event's kind of going to roll some stuff off to next time. As to what transpired in the study session and with regards to Kaw Lake as well, I want to first point out that question 788 is kind of non-enforceable insofar that it requires not a prescription but a license. But if you were to apply a medication that is other than topical injection, ingestible, and you're fumigating a public space, you are distributing to people who do not have a license to receive the product. So what's the point of the license? And as far as the Kaw pipeline goes, I'm glad y'all passed the 36-inch as agreed to early on when we passed the tax initiative. And Mr. Ezell isn't here to be the devil's advocate, so I will be at this time in terms of a growth rate. What sort of expense is growth appropriate? Because you're going to have to replace that entire pipeline in 50 years. So one scenario that hasn't been discussed that may be something of a compromise to Ben Ezell is for 50 years, work with that 30-inch pipeline until you grow to the point where you need a 36-inch, because you're going to have to replace, what, a 36-inch in 50 years? Or would it be cheaper to replace the 30-inch in 50 years? Either way, you're going to have to replace it in 50 years. And Another Zell issue about segways being okayed for sidewalks. I want to point out again, like I did last time, that the condition of the sidewalks are important in terms of liability. But I did need to say this, and that is if segways are okayed for sidewalks, then the public has a reasonable expectation that the sidewalks are suitable for segways. Make sure that they are. Thank you. I'll roll over till next time.
Thank you. Our next person signed up, Mike Fina. Mike? Need your name and address, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Fina, 13200 Turtle Pond Court, Oklahoma City. I'm here. I'm the executive director of the Oklahoma Municipal League, and I am so excited to be actually back in Enid since I was here last week at this time to see Mayor Scheer receive Enid